Playing Full Quiet has shown me that I really struggle with open world adventure games if there's no guide on deck for me to use. That being said, it's hard to believe Full Quiet is also being released on the NES, as in terms of size, it has to be the largest title on that console out there. The map is huge and there's always something to find. Your mission is simple, you need to restore the relay grid and find your missing son. Although the plot is straightforward, piecing together the details is not. But to better see if this could be a game for you, tune into my thoughts on Full Quiet. The opening of Full Quiet is really the only place you can expect to find some help, as you're unknowingly guided to turn on the first radio before venturing off into this mysterious world. It's an immersive experience, with each new area bringing a wonderful tune, secrets to find, and monsters to fight. The pixel art of Full Quiet is gorgeous and the colors are very saturated. One of my favorite areas is the field, and when it turns to evening time you get this nice yellowish backdrop that gives off an autumn feeling. For a game built for a different time, it's incredibly complex, as there's a night-day cycle that completely changes the colors around you and forces you to hurry your way to the next camp, because if you're out too long, well, I'll let you find that out for yourself. There isn't a surplus amount of variety in enemies, however, there's enough to keep the experience from growing stale, and many of them are unique to certain environments, which is always a nice touch. It's vital to keep track of areas you haven't been, because there's a high probability you will need to backtrack at some point, and some places are highly discouraged to venture due to an increase in enemy difficulty. But you need to manage your resources, and I'm telling you now that you will always want to have a fuse on hand because you will need it at some point. The world is wonderfully interconnected, and every time you stumble onto a camp, it's a very rewarding experience where you can save, rest, and up your supplies if you've collected the necessary materials. Now, there is a sort of fast travel mechanic that you can find, however, it's not the modern pause the game and choose as travel you might be used to. But you need to understand this might as well be a title from the 80s, so I have to review it as such. However, during my moments of backtracking is when I found some handy upgrades and materials that only help me in the long run. You have a map that you can always look at, however, it's not too in-depth and you can't place markers on it, but it does help you keep track of your proximity to the new campsites. In addition to the map, you have a hand-drawn manual that explains all of your abilities, items, resources, and even has the enemy lore in there. Full Quiet does a great job immersing you into its world, primarily because it just does not help you. You're completely on your own exploring this vast world, just hoping to stumble onto your next objective. The atmosphere is only a part of the experience, so Full Quiet needs the gameplay mechanics to live up to the world that was built around it. As probably expected, you have the abilities to jump, roll, and shoot, and you can also aim if you hold down the crouch button. The gameplay is smooth and the enemies are fast, so you want to take action quickly, especially against the flying Dawagos who attack at an odd angle. In all honesty, there's nothing special here in terms of combat, as that's more of a secondary focus when compared to the game's puzzle solving, exploration, and resource management. Enemies all just have one form of attack, but some can manage and give more damage. Your starting weapon has unlimited ammo, while the other weapons you find will need to be resupplied at camps, so it's important to kill enemies if you're wanting to always have some ammo or health in your inventory. The main chunk of your journeys revolved around turning on each zone's relay grid. When I first started, I believed I just needed to turn on the radio, however, there's an additional 4 steps required in order to fully restore that zone, so do pay very close attention to detail. Nothing is obvious in Full Quiet, which is exactly why it's such a rewarding experience. Now, I consider puzzle solving to be just the general exploration, but there's also quite literal puzzles to solve as well. When trying to restore power in areas, you'll be prompted to this screen where you must connect the power lines. You're on a timer, so you have to be quick if you don't want a few notches of your health to be diminished. This is both a satisfying and frustrating experience, but overall I enjoyed these sequences. Besides the combat and puzzle solving, there's also some areas where you need to do some platforming. This is definitely not a platforming game, as these sequences usually only require some basic jumping to the next structure. However, you will have to do enough of it for it to be noticeable during your playthrough. The vast majority of your gameplay experience involves exploring the mysterious world and uncovering all of its secrets, whether it be finding abilities, new weapons, or just necessary items such as fuses and ropes. Full Quiet is a difficult game to solve in general, and because there's so much to find, you can expect to have hours of playtime to go through. This is not a pick up and play 2D side-scroller, it is a full-fledged action-adventure experience. Full Quiet has kept me busy for a long while now, and I actually still have much left to do in the game, but I believe I played enough to give you a solid idea on what to expect. The biggest flaw in the game is that it just does not explain anything besides some in-game notes. It is a true NES experience. The difficulty is in the exploration rather than the platforming or combat, which is where I usually struggle with those classic titles. Now, I'm sure that's great news for many of you, but for those more modern gamers looking to shake things up, you have been warned. However, if you're looking for a game with a large, wonderfully interconnected 8-bit world, a surplus amount of hidden secrets to find, a fantastic retro soundtrack, and a true hands-off adventure experience, then I highly recommend picking up Full Quiet. This is what I think to be an objectively fantastic game, however, due to the hands-off approach, it might not be for everyone. That being said, if you're up to the challenge, then I do think it's worth giving a go. Full Quiet will be releasing on the Switch, Xbox, Steam, and NES on July 7th. I want to thank 8BitLegit for giving me a code for their title on the Switch so that I was able to get this review out on time. If you enjoy this review and like indie or Nintendo games, then please do consider subscribing for plenty of similar content. So, until next time.